Okay, hello everyone. This is episode 2 of the basic Unity tutorial. So today we're going to be going over scripting and a lot of stuff related to scripting. And we're going to be making this cube be a player in a nutshell. So firstly, if you haven't seen episode 1, I'm going to be putting a link in the description and in the corner, so you can go click on that. And without further ado, let's get into it. So first of all, from last time we tested a lot of features of Unity, like gravity, how things work, and yeah, so I'll be deleting this now. So I didn't talk about this last time, but yeah, all objects actually have names. So the name is usually what the purpose of the object is, and this object is going to be a player. So let's go make a script. So I talked about how you should make folders last time to be organized. So yeah, and script. So this is how you make scripts. So so the file you select, the folder you select will be the place where you're gonna create anything really. There's a lot of things. So I'm going to select the scripts folder and create a C# script. That's what I like to use, and I'll be naming this player. C# works pretty well for what I'm doing. So you're just going to want to open this. So this, like it says, it may take some time. So especially if you open this for the first time. Here we go. Alright, I'm back. So depending on your computer, again, this could take a bit longer, and so yeah, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about are different types of voids. So this void start runs when at the starting frame when this object is spawned. So yeah, that could be good for setting default values like health, and also removing values at the start of the game. That's also useful. Void update runs every frame, so this is useful if you want to always check for something or always do something. I'll get more to that. So let's say this. So for now, we're going to be making variables. So there's many types of variables in Unity. For example, float. So float is basically a variable which has like a lot of decimals. This would be a float. Yeah, you get the point. It could be more than one, of course. It could contain a full number greater than 0, obviously. So then there's also an integer. These are only full numbers and only accepts full numbers, no decimals. For example, 9 or 952, whatever. Any full number. Strings, these accept text. So how you make text in scripting is you can either use the inspector. I'll show you. You can type text straight into you can type text into here. Like, okay, I'll just show you. But like, yeah, basically you can either type it or you'd have to go like this, and you just write, I don't know, player. That's fine. So for now, we're just gonna make a variable called health, because what is a game without health? I mean, you could have a game without health, obviously, but I'm gonna just be making a health variable. So these are the two different settings. I mean, there's a lot of them, but the two main ones that I use is public variables and private. So private. Public variables and private. So these, private float. Let's say that. I don't want to autocorrect it. So, for example, a public float can be changed by other scripts, can be referenced by other scripts, and can be viewed by other scripts. While private floats, these cannot be changed by other scripts. Actually, they can if you use voids, but they can't be changed directly without certain permission from voids. So we're just going to be using a public float. I mean, yeah, it's fine. So health. So default health. So the number you put in here, since this is an integer, needs to be full numbers. This is going to be our default health. Pretty cool. So start. Well, I mean, this kind of already sets it, so we don't really need to set health to start. But if you want to, you just go health is equal to 10. Easy peasy. So another variable I'm going to make is a public integer called speed. Speed, this variable I created, is going to control how fast the player goes. So we can also set this to we can set it to 15. And now here we go. So I'm going to be coding some control. So, WASD, you want to control your player. So here are the statement types. There's if. You people already know that probably. So if statements basically takes argument. So example, if true, this would always run, and you basically put the curly brackets after it. This would always run. If you want something that never runs, you could say if 1 is equal to 2. Oh, also another thing that you may have noticed is when you're comparing two values in an argument, you use the double equal sign, and when you want to set a variable to a certain value, you go, let's say health, you can set health is equal to 10. Oh, see, Unity already blurred it out because it's never going to be run since it's inside. So anything inside here will run when this condition is met. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to show you how to make how to test for inputs. So anything that's on the keyboard and stuff, you would use input, this input word space or interface. Yeah. So input, I'm going to ask for get key down, or here. So get key, these are different ways people can press stuff. So get key means if you press it, it'll always run over and over and over and over again. Returns true while the user holds. Yeah. Thank you. Get key down is if you press it once and you hold it, it'll only run once, and then that's it, and then you have to keep on pressing it. It's for clickers. And then get key up sounds kind of funky. It only runs when the key is lifted, not when it's pressed down. So only if you press it and then let go, it gets run. So we're going to be using get key because I don't want to spam the W button to move forward. That, you have to go like that. That would not be too good. So key code refers to basically which part of your keyboard that you're pressing or doing this to. So we're going to say key code W. So when someone's pressing W, we are going to move the player. So how you move stuff in Unity, there's a lot of ways to do it, but I'm going to use the transforward translate technique. So this basically moves you can also move other objects, by the way, but for now we're just going to move our own object. So transfer, not translate, we're moving our own object in a certain direction at a certain speed. So for example, vector 3. And also I'm going to talk about local axis and local axes and global axes, but this is going to be our local objects forward, which means it's represented by this blue line. You see, I can rotate this. Well, yeah, once it stops lagging, I can rotate this so so basically this is the local axis and this is the global axes. So you see how they're different. They can be different. It's like how if you turn around, you don't move the whole world with you. Anyways, enough of that. I'm gonna so this is basically saying what direction. Then you need to state what speed. So speed 15. Speed. Because speed has a value of 15. And it's kind of like a trial and error thing, but I find 15 is a pretty good number. I mean, depending on what game you're making, obviously. And lastly, we have to put time.delta time. If you don't put this, your character is going to be really, really, really fast. So, time.delta time. So time, this basically represents the change in time. So you move speed, change of time. I don't get the full reason why this works, but it's just how it's done. Yeah. So let's say I go like this now. Now, if I press W, you're gonna... Oh, one last thing. I forgot this real quick, but whenever you want, like, a thing to have a script, you actually have to put a script on it. So here are two ways you can do it. You can either do that, see the default values, or you can search your scripts. So, player. Searching may be good if you have tons and tons of scripts, but I kind of like the draggy thing more. If I don't have that many. So now, see, it goes forward. You can even fall off the world. Yeah. So now that this is done, I'm going to be giving it different controls. So, see, you can just go like this. So I kind of like using the if statement because, like, if you had a settings in your game, you could easily change which variables, which keys would be, forward, backwards, front, and left. Rather than WASD, it could be like arrow keys. You can also add that. So I'm going to be doing S now. So S, in most games is, or most of these like WASD games, is backwards. And so you don't have to change the speed. You could do forward and make it negative speed, or like speed multiply speed multiply. Okay, speed. Speed minus by speed minus by speed. You could also do that, but I find it simpler just doing this. So D is right. Don't want to get this wrong. Okay, so left. There, and now you have a full character movement. Yay! See, how cool is that? I mean, there's no animations or anything like that, but I can do a tutorial on that later on. Oh, and also, yeah, if you have any... Oh, actually, if you have any questions about anything, you can leave it in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them. So, okay. Alright, so now I'm going to be introducing... So, in some of these games, they usually have the camera, right? And the camera usually locks onto the player. Let me just rotate it on the x-axis. Yeah, the camera... So let's do a top view. Some games do have a top view. So let's say this camera should lock onto your, like, as a game, let's say we want this camera to lock on this player, right? For now, the player has no effect to the camera, right? You see, player can move in the game view, scene view, and the camera isn't moving with it. So I want to introduce a new component. This component is very useful for binding objects transforms to another transform. It's kind of like a follow command, if you know what I mean. So parent constraint. It's called a parent constraint. So this parent constraint can basically lock this camera's... So, okay, so how this works is, you see how this camera has a parent constraint, right? So that means we're constraining this transform to something, like these values to something. So it can be offset. It doesn't have to be exact. So activate means, okay, we started it. Now it's going to be locked. And if you can't even move these anymore once you locked it. And 0 means you want it to be the exact same position. I'll give you an example. So let's say if I grab the player object and press 0, boop, you see? And it also copies the same rotation. And that's where these settings come in. So let's say I don't freeze any of the rotation axes. And then I press 0. Okay, that is a bit weird, but okay, anyway, so let's say I just press activate. Now this player will be followed by the camera. Yes. So in a top view game, this would be pretty good. player is followed by the camera. So another thing you may want to do is you may want some obstacles. And obstacles, some danger, you know what I mean? So again, gonna go over meshes maybe later, but for now we're gonna use some deadly cylinders. That was a bit too loud, sorry. But yes, we're gonna be using some deadly red cylinders. So again, creating a new material, it's in the material folder. Let's make it red. Red for like danger or whatever. And also, do not choose 100% red. It's gonna hurt your eyes. I mean, yeah. Okay, so for now, the cylinder has a capsule collider. That's pretty good. And for now, nothing's gonna happen. And also, okay, our player does have health, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, player has health. But see, for now, nothing's gonna happen. Also, in some games, this may be okay if the environment can move your rotation, but I'm actually gonna lock our rotations from the physics engine. This means our rotations can't be affected by the physics engine, which would also mean that this is not gonna turn you at all. Like, yeah. Oh, whoops. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna make a new script. So this script is gonna be on this. So we can name it spike. It's gonna be on the spike object. Yeah. Oh. So I'm gonna be putting a few different variables on this spike. So the first variable I'll be putting is, well, how much damage does it do? So we're gonna make a public, or, well, I mean, you can make it private. I'm just gonna make it public. So let's say this damage is equal to 1. Why not? Oh, and also, if I don't set it to 1, right, and I just say damage, okay. So if I don't do that, see, you can actually alter the damage in the inspector. So that's pretty cool. So we'll just set that to 1. So that would mean that you could manually do it. I mean, you could. But since there's only one obstacle, I'll just leave it like that. So let's say this. So the player, I'm going to be creating a void. So voids are, they're like functions that run when they are called. So example, if I go void, take damage. So this void is going to make the player take damage, right? For now, these are different variables you send over to the voids. So let's say take damage and health. So I'm going to be putting an integer called D for damage. Kind of like algebra, actually. Health minus equal by D. Also, usually when we minus variables like these, you do minus equal. If you do just minus, you're probably gonna get an error. Yeah, so minus equal it is. There's a reason for it. I think it's something like you have to combine it and like some stuff and make sure it doesn't like minus it too much or something, but I'm not totally sure about that. So yeah, take damage. So theoretically speaking, from the local script, let's say in your start function, right? You can technically write take damage. Boop. This is a right way to send it, but we're not sending all the requirements of variables. You see, this void is asking for an integer. So to do this, we would have to send over an integer. So it could be 1. Yeah, we could do 1. So right now, what this will do is when the object is spawned, because it's a void start, it will make us take 1 damage. Simple enough. Not because a spike is set to 1 damage, but because in the code, so the health is going to turn to 9. Yeah, like that. So we want the spike to hit us. For example, we want the spike to hit us. Yeah, okay. We want the spike to use the damage onto our health. So to do this, there could be many player scripts. So I'm gonna make sure we get the right one. Or there could be, yeah. And so we're gonna go, and before we do that, I'm gonna create a new void called well, I guess it did it for me, but yes, on collision enter. So on collision enter runs when your collider gets hit by another collider or detects another collider and stuff happen. So we can put an if statement. So before we do this, if there were enemies in this game, right? We don't want the enemies. We don't want the spike thinking that enemies are the player, because usually enemies, they don't get hit by the obstacles. I mean, they could, but I'm gonna make it so it only works if it's the player. So we can check no other objects in this game are gonna have this player script. So we can literally just check if collision. Also, this collision refers to the what you collided with. So you can like get a component from the collision, or just check if it has a component. So we can say collision if collision dot get game object the vague description of whatever's in here dot get component. So get component is basically a way that you can, there's lots of ways. It basically means I'm gonna grab your component off, well, let's say this. So you can grab the rigid body would work. Rigid body, and also the script would work. And then, yeah, you just do that again. So this is perfectly fine. So, yeah, so get component basically grabs any component here. For example, this directional light, you can actually use code to change the light level by grabbing the light component and changing it. And we can also change the player script by grabbing the script the script component. So let's say this. Then we're gonna say you can make local variables. So local variables are basically just variables that you don't use that often, and you just need to use it like once or twice. And so you could just write it right into here. These are like the whole script's variables. These are like every like little area is gonna need this. Well, most likely. And also we want it to be in the inspector here. But this is going to be a local variable. So our local variable is going to be a player. And so your local variable needs a name, because there could be multiple player variables. For example, if you have a local variable of an integer, you can have integer x and like integer y. People actually use these for vector 3s. I sometimes use them for vector 3s. But then you could just make a local vector 3 variable, like. Okay, so player is equal to collision. So we're gonna grab the collision object, which should be the player, and then we're gonna get the component. Component, and then we're gonna grab the player component. Player component. And then what we can do is we can say we're gonna grab that component, that exact script, and then we're gonna reference this void. But one thing to make sure is, for now, it's not actually gonna work. Take damage, you see? It's not gonna work because of one reason. This needs to be a public void. Public voids are kind of like public variables. They can be accessed from other scripts. Because this can run in the script because it's the same script, right? You can access your own voids. But for another object to access your voids, or another script to access your voids, you need it to be public void. So see, now if I type take damage, you see there's actually a little link here. And it's also asking for an integer, which will put in damage. Boom. And now when we wait and let the project import everything, now your cube will actually take a bit of damage when it collides. Ouch, 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 ouch. And see, if you hold on it, it won't damage you, because it only runs when it enters. Let's say this, if I switch this to stay, this is another one, this will probably kill you in roughly 12 frames. Because that's probably, like the Void update, that's probably how many times it's gonna run. So, yeah, that was pretty quick of a death. So I'm gonna put enter. And that's gonna conclude episode 2 of the basic Unity tutorial. And if you have any questions or suggestions on a future tutorial, please leave it down in the comment section below.